Now, while we're all talking about this, I should probably point out that obviously, as I am affiliated with a gambling site, I'm going to do a story now, which will end up as a YouTube video, which of course has the issue of the fact I'm going to discuss essentially another betting company. I hope people know enough about me to know it's not some sort of like contrived plan to tear down the opposition, to tear down rivals. It's just I want to talk about an important topic because something's happened again in CSGO where integrity is going to be called into question. And I've been really disappointed with the reaction from the CSGO community at large. And I think people don't really understand the issue. So I want to talk about it. I want to talk about what they call spot fixing. And this relates to a story involving Narvi, and obviously they're active at IEM Katowice. It was at Katowice where this incident kind of all took place. And it's a complicated issue. I'll always give kids the benefit of the doubt for not understanding integrity issues, because at the end of the day, they just want to watch the games and they just want shooty, shooty, bang, bang, and they just want their best players to do well. And they think there can never be any problems. They say the same thing. No one would ever fix a game and throw away their dream job. No one would ever cheat in sports. Why would you? No one would ever engage in morally questionable behavior when they have everything they could possibly want in the world. You're so silly. And of course, when you get a little bit older and a little bit more wise in life, what you realize is humans are just fucked up creatures. We have a penchant for self-destruction. We're also programmed. It's the great tragedy of human consciousness that essentially we are programmed that no matter how good we have it, we always want more. And it's actually that spurred us on to the top of the food chain and helped us survive and helped us evolve. You know, opposable thumbs are pretty cool, but that sort of element of human consciousness is there too. But the problem is, it means that we sit there in the good times, we don't realize we're in the good times, and then the good times go, things get worse, and then we look back and we go, oh no, that was the good times. You didn't really appreciate it at the moment. So as a result of that, people do engage in all sorts of fucked up self-destructive behavior. People who could dominate a sport, for example, might want to dominate it more, might want to dominate it for longer, might want to risk the long-term legacy and reputation by engaging in, I don't know, taking steroids or something like that. I mean, you know, John Jones is the example I always use. Broke my heart, that motherfucker. I mean, really, broke my fucking heart. I remember when I saw he had like some victory and he came out and he was talking, you know, this is very early on in his career. And I think he was talking about, you know, dedicating it to like the Hurricane Katrina victims who were still struggling to get money back from the government and rebuild. And he seemed like a nice dude. He seemed like a guy who had his head screwed on. And he was a fantastic fighter, and you could tell you were watching something very special. And then, unfortunately, I don't know whether it's drugs or CTE or just something, he's ended up so fucked. It's not. It's what I'm talking about. It's the curse of hubris and narcissism that, you know, he ends up popping steroids and popping, you know, all sorts, you know, can't get through a drugs test evidently, not to mention questionable activities in his private life. You know, that hit and run with the pregnant lady where he probably would have booked and you know, only went back to the scene to not help, you know, didn't help her, went back to the scene to get some weed and a firearm. And it's like, oh man, you're just a piece of shit now. And it's really hard for me to talk about him in sort of any fucking glowing terms when I used to love that guy. Is he the GOAT? Yeah, probably, but I can't ever say that because of, you know, there's all these question marks. So people fuck with their legacy all of the time. And esports is no different. In fact, I would even go so far as to say people in esports are more likely to fuck up their legacy because we exist in an ephemeral, intangible, digital space. And so as a result of that, people don't really think of it in legacy terms. People, I mean, a lot of our athletes are kids. They're young adults. They've never held a real job. They've never been out there in the world. This is their first taste of money, first taste of status, first taste of responsibility, and all done in a digital spotlight that you can't escape. And so the pressure that comes with it means people make all sorts of crazy decisions and mistakes. So that's all a preface to what we'll talk about. With that, let's get into the story, and we'll talk a little bit about the reaction as well and what it means. I retweeted an article, which, by the way, obviously the person who wrote it, well, first of all, has aspirations, I would imagine, of wanting to be a writer. And second of all, is clearly writing in a second language. So as a result, obviously, it's not like Pulitzer journalism. I mean, what the fuck is these days, by the way? But, obviously, I'm not retweeting the article and lauding it as a fantastic example of, journalism. I'm not doing that. What I'm doing is, it's basically a nice, easy, digestible way to understand the issue. And the issue is this. I will take you through it one bit at a time. First up, this is the tweet that sort of set it all off. And this is a Na'Vi fan called CMart Forever who placed a bet on February 16th. And basically it says, you know what? If it passes, I am making myself a tattoo with the M249. Oh, first I'll explain what the bet is. The bet was, at some point during the tournament, Na'Vi will buy an M249. And the website that was offering this bet had it at like crazy odds, 501 to 1. Now, why? Why would it be 501 to 1? Because Na'Vi don't buy the M249. All of their players have never recorded a kill with the gun at a tournament. Right? So obviously it's pretty far-fetched. And nobody buys it because the gun has no practical use in the game. There is no reason to buy the gun. We all know that, right? Look, I'll just say the problem all starts with sportsbooks in general offering bets that shouldn't exist. Because, listen, there are a number of spot fixing scandals, which we'll get into. But the point is, a bookmaker that will let you bet on anything whatsoever, and a lot do, it's irresponsible and reckless, particularly in esports, because it's very easy to do things that have no practical impact on the game. In the circumstances, buying an M429 when you're at max money in the last round in a game you're going to win, it doesn't change anything. It doesn't impact on the game. And as a result of that, people have made this point and gone, oh, but it doesn't even make a difference. Yes, but you have to stop this to stop what else comes later. And again, we'll get into it. The bottom line is, I don't think this type of bet should exist. I don't think a sportsbook should be offering this in esports. I think it's irresponsible. I think it's reckless, personally. That's my opinion. And you can have a broader argument about sports, like, for example, time of the first throw-in. That was something that was at the centre of a spot-fixing scandal, one of the first ones in the English Premier League, where Southampton had players that were basically working in collaboration with a Chinese gambling syndicate. And so they would say, we want the first throw-in to be at 11 minutes. And inexplicably, Southampton players would kick the ball out at 11 minutes. And so the opposite team gets a throw-in. Now, obviously in football, it can have bigger impact, right? Because if you're giving possession away, and if they score from that throw-in, you've essentially cost your team a goal. Now, that was a huge scandal, and it was the first time spot fixing sort of entered the collective sports consciousness in the UK, because it's not the type of typical betting that we did. Cricket has been ravaged with stuff like that. Rugby league has had examples of that. And it's a dangerous precedent to just let it go. Trust me, it gets to bad places, and I'll explain why. So there's the bet. Na'Vi, at some point in the tournament, to buy the M429 at 500 to 1. Based on the conversion of the amount of rubles he put on, it works out he would have got like $10,000 back, right? And he says in this tweet, you know what? If it passes, I am making myself a tattoo with 1, the M249, 2, like not the Na'Vi logo, and 3, simple boom, it's bit electronic and perfecto. Retweet and like, and good luck to Na'Vi in hashtag IEM Katowice 2022. what happened next was there's a caster called Lenin, great name, that basically highlighted this. And he's popular in the CIS region, and he highlighted this by basically saying, what if he took to Twitter and did that? Just what if? And as a result of this, it started to spread. It started to proliferate. And 3 days after this, and it wasn't just Lenin, other CIS influencers had been talking about the bet. It had been brought up on stream. It had been retweeted a lot. People were aware of it in that region. And in the end, on February the 19th, during the Na'Vi Furia game, Perfecto bought an M249 and dropped it on the ground. Now, listen, many people might go, ooh, was it a misclick? Could it have been a mistake? Well, for whatever reason, I'm going to explicitly tell you the reason. For whatever reason, that innocent mistake in a game that they were winning comfortably, well, the Na'Vi team decided they wanted to highlight it so much mysteriously. They wanted to do a tweet about it happening and said, let's leave it here, winky face, right? Now, you have to ask yourself, if it was just an innocent misbuy, why would Na'Vi tweet about it? What is so special about highlighting the M249? Now, obviously, they can espouse plausible deniability, can't they? And go, just an innocent, harmless mistake that we thought was funny, so we thought we'd meme on it. But if you know anything about the CIS region, you know how everyone's fucking shit is just aired publicly. Right? And so there is no way the people at Na'Vi, the social media manager at Na'Vi, weren't aware of this bet existing. There is just simply no way. No way. I'll just draw you to one more tweet. And this again was from Lenin after it was bought. And you can see here, he says, furiously laughed at the M249 buy. Respects are flying across all of the universe. CMART forever. We did it. You have to ask yourself, that's what the capitalization there is. You have to ask yourself, who is we? Who's the we? What did we do? So all of this points to the fact that the bet, or rather the outcome, was manipulated via knowledge that was given to the Na'Vi players. And so we have to assume, this was just some innocent mistake, but why we did it? Why respect flying out all over the universe? Why are Na'Vi highlighting it? These things, there's too many coincidences already piling up on each other. But it gets worse, because as I'm going to show you, I'm staggered that this is just sort of openly reported, by the way, in the Russian press. It's Cybersport RU. They reported it. Now, again, I'll put this in for you. You will see it in Russian. You'll have to just trust me that my translation is accurate. So this is the headline called, "The Bookmaker Reduced the Odds for the Event in Na'Vi Matches by 10 times due to the activity of fans." So, worth mentioning before we even get into breaking this down, right? The bookie in question, GG Bet, sponsor Na'Vi, okay? And so, to clarify, Na'Vi fan places weird bet on betting platform that sponsors Na'Vi. CIS regional casters, who, by the way, as I've said many times, go watch my video, Na'Vi Defense Force, everybody kowtows and bows down to Na'Vi in the CIS region. They are the only show in town. You don't want to get on their wrong side. Tweets out, hey, look at this bet. What if Na'Vi did it? Coincidentally, in a game that Na'Vi is stomping, Na'Vi do it. Na'Vi feel that it's imperative they tweet about this harmless, innocent mistake on their social media platform, which is immediately noticed by the same caster who highlighted it in the first instance, saying, yes, we did it, congratulations to the better. Don't worry, nothing to see here, just another day in esports. And right, so here we go. I'm going to read you this article. And again, I can't show you the translate because Google Translate doesn't work in XSplit. The betting company, GGBet, had to reduce the quotation per event tenfold in the matches of Na'Vi CSGO roster. It's all because of the activity of the club's fans, who began to massively turn to players on social media with requests to help this individual win the bet. Under the terms of the betting lines, people could bet with a coefficient of 501 to 1 that one of the Na'Vi players would buy the M249 weapon at least once in official matches in Katowice 2022. The event attracted a lot of attention from fans due to the high odds, and in just a couple of hours, the number of bets on this line was 250% higher than the average for other similar events. As a result, the bookmaker had to reduce the odds to 50 to 1. So, in other words, it prompted a flurry of attention to the betting site, and they got a bunch of bets placed on, which Na'Vi then, well, bloody hell, we've only gone and done it. Oh, no, we've only gone and lost. Wow. So, why does this matter? Right? Why is this a big deal? Richard, you just hate Na'Vi, obviously. That's what's really going on. Well, no. Here's the fundamental problem with it, and I hope people will get on board. I'm going to show you some real-life examples, talk about why spot fixing is a problem and how it can get to worse places if you don't do something about it when it's at this stage. So for me, how I read this is essentially like guerrilla marketing, or think of it that way. What happened was, I believe the bet was placed in good faith by somebody who saw pretty stupid fucking odds, really, on a bet that shouldn't exist and wanted to take advantage. Because he tweeted about it and it went out on social media, people highlighted the tweet, and then Na'Vi sponsors and Na'Vi saw an opportunity for free marketing in their region and good press. Now, you might say, but Richard, if GGBet lose the bet, then they lose money. But yes, of course. But think about how much this has been talked about. Think about all the goodwill. Think about how now GGBet is perceived to be a place where you can get these crazy odds and have these crazy bets. And, oh, aren't they good? They're good sports about it all. Obviously, as well, think about all of the goodwill Na'Vi get and all of the attention Na'Vi get as a result of this. Because, by the way, they happen to exist in one of the holy three regions that can do whatever the fuck they want in esports: Brazil, CIS, and China, right? All for different reasons. They don't play by the same rules the rest of us have to. They get away with all sorts of shit because fucking TOs and all the apparatus that are meant to keep people in check are fucking spineless when it comes to money and big regions to begin with. So, obviously, right? What happens is they are like, well, look, we can't take the bet back. All we can do is correct the odds. By the way, bit fucking dubious. You might want to say, well, yeah, if a lot of people do place the same bet, you fucking reduce the money line. That's how it goes because it looks suspicious. But obviously at that point, what I might be inclined to think, having studied these type of things and odd shifts and how it relates to activity, is this essentially says they're definitely going to do it. So let's put it down as much as possible so it doesn't necessarily hurt us. And obviously, like 250% increase on betting on that particular thing to occur probably doesn't represent a significant increase at all. In fact, 10 grand is nothing to a betting company, right? I can tell you that for free. And so that's what that guy was on course to win, and that was at the higher odds. So anyway, why is this an issue? Obviously, in this particular instance, it looks harmless. It has the illusion of being sort of a harmless, victimless, a victimless crime, not a real crime, just the parlance. Because obviously the only person, the bookies lose money, right? And it had no practical impact on the game, right? It had no practical impact on the result, right? It sort of leaves egg on the face of, GGBet, and the world keeps turning and we all get a laugh out of it. But okay, let's imagine a world where prior to the M249 being purchased, that guy who places that bet says to Perfecto, hey, I'll give you half the winnings if you do it. At the end of the day, 5 grand you walk away with and you get 5 grand in your pocket. Now we got a problem because now you have financial inducements to change outcomes of in-game events. And that's exactly what's been going on in spot fixing scandals throughout history, which is why you don't allow this. You have to do something about this. You have to make a statement about this because it gets to that very fucking quick if you don't. And history shows us this. There's also the other issue. Let's say, for example, you do something that seems like it's going to be harmless and has the unintended consequence of like snowballing your team into a defeat, right? So let's say, for example, somebody's got a bet on you to get a knife kill in a series. And again, you're aware of it and you want to meme about it, or you've been offered some money to do it. And so every opportunity that someone presents themselves for you to get a knife, you go after the knife. But here's the problem. You don't get the knife. You get domed. And actually now, suddenly, because you went for a knife 3 or 4 times in this game, your team is starting to lose. Now you have subverted the entire tournament. Now you have let down your sponsors. Now you have let down your employers. You see how this extrapolates outwards, right, and becomes a big, big problem. Not to mention, there is an unethical quandary just in and of itself by tampering with betting markets. Now, one of the other stupid rebuttals I saw, and it was a really stupid one, because Perfecto would have been aware of the bet, and I'm not saying he was, because they can just deny it and nothing can be done. But if Perfecto was aware of the bet and he didn't buy the M249, he was influencing the result as well. People literally type that. Hundreds of people literally type that. What's he supposed to do? Right. The reason that's absolutely fucking stupid is you doing business as usual, aka trying to win a game and perform optimally. It doesn't matter if you then make a punter lose a bet. What we know about Counter-Strike is you do not ever buy the M249. It's overpriced, it's garbage, it does nothing. There's never a practical reason to buy it, which is why the number 1 team in the world never buys it and doesn't have a single kill at tournaments with it, right? There's no reason to buy the gun. So by buying the gun, what you're doing is, the only reason to buy it is to enact this bet. I also saw another stupid rebuttal, which was, but what if the bets were simple to buy an AK, right? And it's like, well, I can't imagine any bookmaker would ever offer action on buying the standard default guns everybody uses. But if they did, the odds for it would be so infinitely small, right, that you would have to even see a return, you would have to risk so much money. And then just what if he doesn't? And then you've lost. And that is what that's how bookmakers operate, essentially. So you wouldn't see a bet like that. And if you did, it wouldn't be worth betting on. The return would be pointless. You'd need to put like $1 million on to get like $2 back or something. The odds, that's how you would scale it. So that's a stupid rebuttal. And look, I am all for giving people the benefit of the doubt. I don't want Na'Vi to be banned for this, but it is worth noting it is specifically against the ESIC Code of Conduct. It says in the ESIC Code of Conduct, which all IEM and ESL tournaments and DreamHack tournaments and ESEA and all, they're all bound by it. Specifically says if you if you do something in game that would affect the outcome of a bet that you are aware of, you're in violation of the ESIC Code of Conduct. And as a result, I would say it's probably appropriate to give them a warning and a fine. You have to make a statement. You have to make a statement about it because it gets to fucking bad places. Now, one of the things it was compared to was Wayne Shaw, a.k.a. Piegate. Basically, I'm going to tell you about the joys of non-league football. So Sutton United were in the, I think it was the FA Cup, and they got to play Arsenal. And they were a bit of a mean club because they were, I think at that point they hadn't even been promoted, and it was their first ever televised. So I think they were outside of league football. They're in League Two now. I don't think they were then, but anyway, regardless. They were playing in the FA Cup. It was televised, so they were going to get some additional revenue for that, and it was an opportunity to promote the club. And one of the things was there was their sort of like co-owner / goalkeeper who was remarkable because he was called the roly-poly goalie. Now I'll show you him. Here's the roly-poly goalie for you to enjoy. Now, he's a big boy. He's a unit. He's a fucking big man. And one of the things he was famous for doing, right? One of the things he was famous for doing was like he'd be on the sidelines and he'd eat a pie, and the fans would be like, "Yeah, you ate all the pies, you ate all the pies," right? That was his thing. That was his gimmick. And so, as a joke, a bookmaker basically made it so you could place a bet that at some point during the Arsenal game, he would eat a pie, right? That is obviously, again, just a stupid bet. Like, why is anyone taking action on that, right? But that was what was there. And so, on TV, against Arsenal, biggest game in the club's history, he sneakily, and actually, to be fair, it was a pasty, but, you know, that was what he said in his defense. That's actually true, I'll show you, because this made the New York Times, if you can believe it. But anyway, he pulled out a pie and ate it. He pulled out, a delicious Greggs and ate it, and everyone was like, "Way!" No, here's the problem. He knew about the bet, and by extension, could tell people, place a bet, I will eat a pie. Now, why the fuck would you... Why are you eating a pie during a fucking game? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's absurd in and of itself. But this is how serious it was. There was repercussions over this. It all sounds funny. It is funny. It's comical. But we start getting into this, sports integrity issues. And here it is. Goalie eats pie and loses his job while bettors' wallets fatten. In the New York Times from 2017. Absolutely legit. An English soccer player who enjoyed a meat pie on the sideline during the game was forced to resign on Thursday after his meal spurred a formal investigation into gambling. The strange tale involves a Cinderella team, a bookmaker eager for publicity, and most important, a portly middle-aged goalkeeper with a taste for meat and potatoes. When Sutton United, a small team from the fifth tier of English soccer, met mighty Arsenal in an FA Cup fifth-round match on Monday, there was naturally a lot of attention on the game. One of the Sutton players who was singled out for pre-game press was Wayne Shaw, as much for his girth as for his talent. His own team referred to him as the roly-poly goalie. He is 46 years old, 6'2", and somewhere around £322 or 23 stone, as the British papers usually put it. Mostly a coach, a caretaker, and community liaison for the small-time team, he was also its backup goalkeeper. Right, we'll skip... We'll skip his history. And then bookmakers rushed to provide betting opportunities on the high-profile nationally televised game. In its eagerness to stand out in a competitive industry, the lesser-known company, Sunbet, offered light-hearted but very real odds of 8-1 that Shaw would eat a pie on the sideline during the match. It was great for a laugh. Then Shaw ate a pie. In the 83rd minute of the match, which Arsenal won 2-0, Shaw, who was not playing, was caught on camera dining on a meat and potato pie on the sideline. Afterwards, he guilelessly confessed that he knew about the bet and he'd eaten the pie because of it. I said, "I don't know. I've eaten nothing all day, so I might give it a go later on." Shaw said he had not profited from his pie, but knew others had. "Obviously, we're not allowed to bet," he said, but he acknowledged, "I think a few of the mates and a few of the fans had. You can look back and say it was part of it, and we got our ticket money back," he said. The trouble is, his dinner could be considered what is called spot fixing. Most sports betting scandals around the world these days do not involve throwing an entire game. That requires too many participants, and it's too easily noted. Yeah, isn't it? Instead, fixers take advantage of the many side bets offered by bookies and arrange for a player to do something small that they can nonetheless bet on. Take a throw in at a certain time, bogey a specific hole, or bowl a cricket ball a certain way. No one is saying Shaw's act was motivated by a criminal betting syndicate, but his manager, Paul Doswell, told reporters, "I don't think it shows us in the best light. He's got himself in the papers again, and the fame has gone to his head a little bit, but we will soon bring him back down to earth. Don't worry about that," said the club chairman, Bruce Elliott. On Tuesday, Shaw was forced to resign from the club after the Football Association's Gambling Commission said it would investigate if consumption of the pie was a breach of betting regulations. Eating a pie, right, a breach of betting regulations because he even confessed. He said, yeah, I knew about the bet and some of my mates bet on it. He's obviously said, I'm going to eat a pie, right? Told his mates, and they've gone out and done it. So, and he had to resign, and he got like I think a 2-month suspension, right? Now, I know, again, it's funny, but imagine it was something else. And, you know, we can take a look at another example, because I'm a Newcastle fan for my fucking sins, and one of our players got fucking wrecked over something not entirely dissimilar, before he was one of our players, obviously. But let's talk about Kieran Trippier, by the way, who's transformed Newcastle. What a signing, up the tune. But, right, he got investigated by the FA. He said, lump on it if you want, right? And this was when, before he moved to Atletico Madrid, he was in a WhatsApp group, and his friend said, are you going to join Atletico? And he told them, yes, I will. Lump on it, as in place a serious bet. Now, listen, again, we're talking about small amounts of money. We're actually talking about less money than what just happened with the M249. Another friend, cited only as Jay, placed a £25 bet on Trippier joining Atletico at 8-13 for a total return of £91.67. Oliver Hawley placed 16 bets on the transfer over a number of days with stakes that range from £8.75 to £300. He'd previously lost a bet on Trippier joining Juventus. Trippier's agent, Greg Wadsworth, is included in one of the groups, and some of Hawley's bets were placed immediately after Wadsworth had said he was working on getting the deal done. Hawley, who was described as a prolific gambler, bet a combined stake of £1,189.90 and took away winnings of £2,332.90. Right? Now, the punishment for this, for Trippier just saying, yeah, go on, I'm going, lump on it, was 10 weeks ban from all football-related activity. By the way, when you're banned from all football-related activity, you can't even train. You can't even go to the ground, right? You have to train at home. And fined £70,000 and had to pay costs for the investigation and the subsequent court fees, right? So, again, an innocent, innocuous phrase, telling the truth, I'm moving to Atletico Madrid, but because it fucks with the betting markets, it's bad. It's real bad. And again, as I said, there are far, far worse examples. Think about what I just told you about the Southampton scandal, where players literally altered outcomes in exchange for money, did things at certain times. Think about snooker, where people will miss shots or not go above a certain break, and they deliberately miss. You know, John Higgins, by the way, who still, fuck him, I can't stand him. But anyway, John Higgins, you know, caught on tape saying it's easy to make it look like you just missed the shot. You just have to change the angle, slightly. Think about cricket and all the Pakistani cricketers that were caught up in it. So it goes to a bad place very, very quick. And I keep saying it, right? First of all, punters, betters, one of the things I saw in the reaction was going, imagine betting on teams. Imagine crying over losing bets. You do understand, right, that they have a right to be protected from dishonesty that costs them losing their money. You understand they're consumers and they have consumer protections, right? You get that, right? Apparently not, by the way. Apparently the community are totally okay with it. Salty bettors losing. It's like, no, you're a consumer. If people conspire to fuck you out of your money, that's bad. That's really bad. That shouldn't happen to you. It's not fair. All the people that have lost money due to the rampant match fixing in North America, all the people who've bet on these games, which have no place being offered all this action on in the first place, in my opinion, you know, all the people who lost that money, yeah, it's bad. They didn't deserve that to happen to them, no matter what you think about them. This has to be looked at. Now, I'll just say this, straight snitching. I've told ESIC, like, there it is. Like, put this on your fucking caseload. Now, not Nothing will happen. And by the way, I'd have to be, I'd have to live as long as Methuselah to fucking see the outcome, probably. But at the end of the day, it's got to be looked at. It's got to be looked at, and there has to be some action taken. Remember, it doesn't have to be a ban. It doesn't have to be some permanent smear that impugns anyone's reputation, because ultimately, this is about as harmless as spot fixing can get. I acknowledge that. But spot fixing in and of itself isn't harmless. Every time I watch sports, every time I watch a game, I have to be 100% confident that what is happening is real and in the moment and down to a combination of human error or skill, and that everyone's trying to win. And if I'm not convinced of that in any given moment, then the sport doesn't matter anymore. And if the sport doesn't matter anymore, that is bad. That's really bad. When the sport ceases to matter because people don't trust their eyes or think that it's suspect in some way, people leave the sport. Fans go away. Games die. And if you think it can't happen to a big esport, go ask the fans of Brood War. Because I'll tell you, what put the fucking final nail in the coffin of that game wasn't the release of StarCraft 2, it was the match fixing. It was the widespread match fixing scandal. That's what did it. Because fans were like, well, what's the point in watching it? It's all fixed. It's wrestling. So you can't let it get there. And, it's ridiculous, I think, I have to point that out, why that's a bad thing, why it's an unethical thing. But again, you see, when you're big enough, they let you get away with it. When you're big enough, you can do what you want. It's why, people run covering fire for Simple's ESL wire ban. It's why, you get above a certain level, people will excuse all of the unethical, shady things you've done. Especially if you're the best, especially if you pander to the fans. If you do those things, you'll always be okay. And it's fucked up. Esports has took enough licks the last couple of years. Let's not let spot fixing become the fucking norm in the scene.